Hi, I'm Katy Pracht-Phares, and I am here to do an interview with one of our MicroOpera's composers, Elijah Stewart. Let's just jump right in. This is for our MicroOpera's program on Friday, April 11th at 8 p.m. in Bryan Recital Hall at BGSU. Let's begin. What is your name? Where are you from? And what is your school year and major?
So my name is Elijah Stewart. I am a fourth year undergrad, majoring in music composition, and I am from Huntsville, Alabama.
Ah, fantastic. What instruments do you play? And do you have a primary instrument here at BGSU? If so, who's your teacher?
Sure. So my primary instrument is electric guitar. I study with Ariel Kessler, and I also sing a little bit. I studied with Keith Fares, and yeah.
Cool. Great, great, great. And how did you become a composer?
Mhm.
Who's your composition teacher?
Sure.
And did any other composition teacher work with you on this micro-opera?
So I started composing in high school. I was really into film music, and through that I figured out some of my favorite composers, inspirations from other composers, and I thought, oh, I could do that. And so I started composing, and I got connected to somebody in high school, so I studied for about a year and a half before coming here. And currently I'm studying with Dr. Marilyn Shrewd, but I wrote this opera under the direction of Pioatlu Larpersert, another composition faculty.
Fantastic. Great. What is the name of your micro-opera? And did you write the libretto? And I believe you have a librettist. So what is their name and where do they live?
So the name of this opera is The Silence of Ezra Pound, and this was the libretto was written by my uncle, N.V. Finley. He is a bit of a nomad. He's currently based in Alabama, but he's lived in Southeast Asia for the last 20 years.
Awesome. And what do you have any idea, like the background of why this story came about for him?
Sure. So he's a poet, not necessarily professionally, but he has a strong literature background, academically, and Ezra Pound is one of the most important literary figures of all time. So, yeah, I think just because he has such a fascinating background, it was just prime material to explore.
Yeah. And was the story already there, like the libretto already there, and was it something that he wanted to do, or was it something that you reached out and said, hey, you want to write something?
Well, so before I even came to BG, I really wanted to do a micro-opera, like here. Like that's one of the reasons I came here. And so I've been bugging him for years to write me a libretto. The idea wasn't mine, and he kind of just, I don't know where it came from, to be entirely honest. I don't know what started it, but it was perfect, and yeah.
Awesome. And then in about 5 to 7 sentences, what is your micro-opera story about?
Sure.
Can you include maybe character names and the larger idea of the storyline?
So the opera is it's a fictional encounter with Ezra Pound. He was the foremost leader of modern avant-garde poetry in the early 20th century. He's the guy who brought like T.S. Eliot and James Joyce to the, not mainstream, but to the forefront of that avant-garde movement. Anyway, during World War II, he was based in Italy, and he was very vocally supportive of Hitler's fascist government and the terrible things he was doing. So after the war, he was taken prisoner and deemed insane and put in St. Elizabeth's asylum. I forget the word.
Like a mental hospital.
Yeah. Okay. So this story is an encounter between a former associate of his that we just called the poet and him in the asylum. And yeah, it explores the two most important things it explores are ideas of guilt and insanity and how they interact with each other.
Awesome. What inspired you to compose for this story? So you told me that you've been wanting to write a micro-opera, and obviously the story is what your uncle presented you. Were there any musical ideas that you'd drawn from somewhere else, or did something just pop into your head?
I don't know that I pulled much from anything in particular. I mean, I believe that all composition is just the confluence of everything you've ever heard put into one piece, right? So I wasn't pulling from anything specific here. I very intentionally avoided like Wagner-esque leitmotifs. I wanted to abstract everything as much as possible. I didn't make a clear distinction between good and bad, because even though the poet that visits Ezra Pound is probably a more moral person in the end. I mean, he still supported terrible things that the American government did, and Ezra Pound obviously supported horrible things that the German government did. So like, it's all very blurry, and I did my best to obscure like superiority of idea or anything as much as possible.
That's awesome, actually, and I can hear that in the music. So come and listen for that too. I think that's an apt description of it. Is there an unusual theme, image, instrument, character that the audience should look and listen for in your micro opera?
So yeah, guilt and innocence are the really big things. The libretto is incredibly multi-layered in the way that, like, because it's a fictional encounter, we can imbue further abstract ideas into it. So like, one thing I was talking to my uncle about is one of the reasons he believes that our government is so insane right now is guilt for the invasion of the Middle East after the 2001 events. He thinks that guilt has led to some form of insanity within our government. So that's just like another level past what Ezra Pound represents in this opera. So like, I'm just gonna flat out say I don't think Ezra Pound was insane, and neither does the librettist. But at most, some sort of megalomania. And the guilt in supporting the German government is what led him to either feign insanity or stay completely silent. Because he was such an egomaniac that he believed everything he stood for was perfect and modern and interesting and new, as the famous quote goes, "I'm new." So it all just wraps up in this complex binary of guilt and insanity and how they interact with each other and how they aren't really separable, at least in this context.
That's great, Elijah. It's very cool. Can you tell me, I know that there's something special that happens later on in the piece. What are some of the sounds and colors we're going to hear?
Sure. So the majority of the piece is piano and two vocalists, tenor and soprano. Baritone, soprano, sorry. Yeah. Yes. I wrote it. But toward the end, there's the kind of like culminating event where the guilt really catches up to Pound, and he claims he is new, and the poet doesn't exactly reprimand him, but it's like, you have this incredible gift of words. Why is this what you chose to do? And so instead of having a piano backing there, I have a fixed media track that contains mangled and processed versions of his broadcasts from Italy in the 40s, his pro-Hitler broadcasts. So it's kind of just, it's not supposed to be the main focus of that part, but it's supposed to be kind of haunting him from the background as the poet is just kind of shocked and disappointed in what Ezra Pound has become.
So as we listen to it, it's going to be kind of like a third person, as it were, in the space, and in that it's Ezra Pound, the real Ezra Pound.
The real Ezra Pound,
That's really interesting. Cool. Can you give us in just a couple sentences your preferred compositional style?
Sure. Recently I've had two kind of like mantras going around in my head, and that is to reject multiplicity is reject yourself, and everything is everything. So I don't like to box myself into one idea. Like I have minimalist influences, I have atonal influences, I have serial influences, I have rock and jazz influences. So with this piece, I think it just kind of weaves in and out of those influences. I feel they're necessary. Like I pull from those as I feel the emotion, the expressive character is necessary. So I pull just from whatever feels most appropriate for what needs to be expressed.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And were there any challenges that you discovered writing this piece?
Well, because I don't rely on very obvious motives. There are motives throughout the work, but they're usually pretty obscured. It's a little hard to have a through line without something to clearly ground everything, and so I had to work around that. And I think the end result is logical, and I'm proud of it. But like I said, because of no obvious like harmonic or motivic through line, I had to really sculpt the work as detailed as I could to express what I needed to express without relying on those
Helpers.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, that's great. Where can our audience learn more about you? Do you have like a website, YouTube channel, Instagram?
Sure. I have my Instagram is elijah.stewart.music. My YouTube channel, you can find it through the link in the bio in my Instagram.
Okay.
Working on a website. We'll have fun very soon.
Sweet. Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much for doing this. Please join us for our MicroOpera's performance on Friday, April 11th at 8 o'clock in Bryan Recital Hall here at the College of Musical Arts at BGSU. It is free and open to the public. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you.